So they are designed for 3-shift running. So our advice to people is run them flat out. That he's gone from 3 40 taper vertical single pallet machines to 1 brother twin. He says, oh, he is 96% last time I walked around there. It'll never be as quick as what you see with the drive technology and control capability within a brother because of the type of machine that it is and the dynamics that it's got. Such and such down the road's got a light blue one of that, or a dark blue one of that, or an orange one of that, or a green and black one of them. Well, that's fine. That's what they do. What about what you do?
I thought I knew a lot about the differences between the BT40 and the BT30 before this, but I know a lot more now.
The MTD CNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
So in this filmed podcast today, I'm at Whitehouse Machine Tools. I'm with Peter Smith, and we're going to be talking about the advancements in the brother range of machine tools, the BBT30 machines that you'll see behind us here and that Whitehouse Machine Tools have been supplying for some time. Now, there's a real message that's going to be coming out across this whole program, and that is about the fact that these machines, or how capable these machines are these days, and how Peter and his team here at Whitehouse Machine Tools believe that currently BT40 users and general machine shops should really be looking at this technology when they're looking to grow their business. And that's probably a good place to start, Peter. Could you maybe, I guess, go into a little bit more detail about why we're doing this and your beliefs here?
There's a common misconception in the marketplace that we've got to address. Is that BBT30 machines are typically designed for machining of aluminium and castings. They're essentially drill tap machines, and that's not right. The technology's moved on such a long way. With Brother in particular, we look at the breadth of the product range that they've got now. So it's vertical, it's horizontal, it's 5-axis, it's mill turn, it's twin pallet, it's multi-pallet. And there's a range of spindles in there as well. So when we look at machining capability in ferrous materials and tough materials, it's no issue anymore. And also with scanning work, so for complex scanning and 5-axis simultaneous work, they're fully capable. And as I touched on, mill turn as well, so there's a lot of capability there. So there's a lot of misconceptions, and I do see a lot of investments in this market where people, unfortunately, and probably based on experience, and why wouldn't you? Because it's what you know, buy 40 taper machines, and it's the wrong technology. They're inefficient, is what they are. They could be so much more efficient in terms of not only speed of manufacture, cycle time of parts, footprint is much smaller on a 30 taper machine. Across the range, it's a DNA, or one of the DNA elements that runs through the brother range is speed, is footprint size. And then also when we look at power consumption, which I know we're going to get into some more detail with Dan, our applications manager, their power consumption is just phenomenal by comparison. You can save a lot of money, produce a lot faster in a much smaller footprint, and they're capable across a much broader spectrum of products and of materials than people might imagine.
Well, that's why this is really important, because I mean we've been working with you guys for many years talking about the brother technology. We've seen many of your customers that are actually benefiting from what we're talking about here. So this is about spreading this message beyond those that already know. Now, during this feature, we're going to break this down into 7 areas. We're going to talk about cycle time reduction. We're going to talk about reduction in downtime. We're also going to talk about the power and the air savings, which are 2 really critical areas currently. We'll also talk about the space saving, which you touched on. We'll talk about the control system, and we'll talk about the developments in the machines and the technologies in general. And then, of course, one that's very important these days, automation and how it can be applied. Now, I want to start with this cycle time reduction. Firstly, again, let's assume there's companies watching this that have a whole host of BT40 machines, and we're we're in some ways making a comparison here. How are these cycle time reductions gonna come out? You know, where are they going to see them, and what does it mean? How important is it?
Okay, so where are they going to see them? I can't give a generic, you're going to save that, because it's very applications dependent. On average, we would see about a 30% cycle time saving, but it's fair to say that the more scanning work that you do, the smaller the cycle time saving is, because we're in feed rate. It will be quicker depending on the material. So if we're in non-ferrous materials, I'm going to be able to feed quicker. I've got some constraints there as I get into tougher materials. Where you really start to see the difference open up. So you'll see some time savings, but where you really start to see it is the cutting out of the waste. So it's the acceleration and the deceleration of the machine. So the more point-to-point work that we've got to do, the more air cut time that we've got in there, the more tool change time that we've got in there, the more repositional work, those features exacerbate the difference. So I've seen some scanning jobs where, from a cycle time point of view, I might be 10% quicker. But equally, I've seen some positional work that we've done, and I'm thinking of one customer in particular in the Redditch area, where we took 70% out of his cycle times. And that's comparing to a brand new 40 taper machine that was sat next to the brother. So we've taken the work from 3 single pallet 40 taper machines, and we're doing it all on 1 twin pallet 30 taper. So we've got to be realistic, and we've got to look at the application. But as an average, we would see a 30% cycle time saving, and that's down to machine dynamics, as I say. So a lot of people get lost in rapid rates. I'm not interested, rather not particularly interested in rapid rates. It moves at 50 meters a minute. And I see lots of machines out there that will be 120 meters a minute. You'll never achieve it. So this machine consistently achieves 50 meters a minute, but it gets there a bit geeky in a G-force of 2.2 G, so 22 meters per second squared. Most verticals are operating at about 0.8 of a G. So my acceleration and deceleration are much faster. It's not about rapid rate, it's about acceleration rates. And it's the same with the tool change and the spindle. So a lot of the savings that come in will be the brother, and it runs right the way through the range from, let's take the typical 16,000 RPM spindle. I'll go from 0 to 16,000 RPM in 0.15 of a second, and it will take 1.15 of a second to get back. So I'm from 0 to 16,000 and back to 0 in 0.3 of a second, and it will tool change in 0.7 of a second. And I get a lot of people that say, well, I don't need to tool change that fast. But if you've got 100 tool changes to do, well, that's waste, isn't it?
Well, I guess that's every area you touch on there is areas on a BT40 machine that are going to be slower. So your customer that you talk about that has benefited from this, firstly, how surprised was he? But how much of an education did you have to bring to it in order to show him? I mean, could you just take the program and run it through this machine from theirs and actually go, there you go?
So that's a really, really pertinent question. So I get a lot of disbelief. They just think it's a sales tactic. And you get lots of other manufacturers that are out there of 40 taper machines that will introduce a new technology that will say they're quicker. It'll never be as quick as what you see with the drive technology and control capability within a brother because of the type of machine that it is and the dynamics that it's got. So what do? We have to do and place a lot of emphasis on the pre-sales work. So majority of what we sell, we would be getting a program. And we would be proving the points. So very often the team will say to the customer, supply us with your ISO program. So it's Brother's own control, but it's all ISO. So it all runs on standard ISO coding. So, you can mention any control out there that any of our competitors run, and they will have in there somewhere an ISO program, whether it's masked by a front-end conversational. So we will take that program, and the first thing we will do is, without any refinement, and I'll leave it at the same feed and speed data, we'll run that program. because what we're doing is we're testing the kinematic capability of the machine, or the dynamic capability of the
So
machine.
you're almost seeing the waste at the same speed.
Yeah,
You're cutting out the
exactly
waste
that.
at the same speed.
At the same speed. So it's apples for apples. So I'm giving you a direct comparison for the performance of your machine to my machine, and then we will start to refine it, because there are some features in the if you take the machine that's behind me, the R series machine, there's a particular G code that we use that's completely unique to Brother, and it will tool change, pallet change, and index the rotary axis simultaneously, because it's all time loss. So we'll start to get into refinements of, well, what feed rates can we run at, and we'll look at the tooling that we can apply to it, because we're running so fast. We've got to be, we've got to look at tool balance, we've got to look at tool length, we've got to have these checks and balances in place, so that we can see the dynamic capability of the machine. So I think in the instance that I mentioned with a customer down in Redditch, when we first ran, we took nigh on 50% out of his cycle time, and this was a program that had been taken from a brand spanking new. Well, it was a year old, South Korean built 40 taper vertical. We were 50% faster on cycle. With refinement, we got it down to 71% cycle time saving, and that's real world. And I guess the competitor maybe should maybe if you did some refinement on their process, you could eke a little bit more out there as well, but it's still huge as a saving, and it's reality.
And how consistent is that saving, though? I mean, you can go round a bend very quickly once. Can you go round it twice, 3 times, and continuously? Are these cycle time reductions from the BT40 to the BT30 something that you can continually achieve?
Yeah, so Brother machines all are built to be run flat out, full stop, just run flat out 24/7. They are a production machine, which turns some people off. Oh, I don't do production, I don't need cycle time. But who doesn't need cycle time these days, whether you're making one part or whether you're making 100,000? So they are designed for 3-shift running. So our advice to people is run them flat out. It's the same with spindles. You get a lot of 40 taper machines that will have a duty cycle on the spindle, and for a certain part of every hour you'll have to throttle back the spindle speed that you're running at. That's not the case with the Brother. With the way that they're designed, with equal moving masses and inertia characteristics of the machine, and the engineering and development that's gone in over the years, over the last 40 plus years, they're designed to run flat out. So will it do it consistently? Yeah, that's why you buy one. Their incidents of breakdown are, I'll never say that they won't break down, because it's a machine tool, but their incidents of breakdown are so small, it's staggering.
But when you cut out that waste, and I get you're cutting out the waste by moving faster, more dynamically, doing all of these operations far quicker. You're moving less mass around, I guess, with just smaller machines. So that in turn really does help, doesn't it, with wear parts, mechanical parts and stuff like that. Is that one area where you do gain? But there must be others too.
Yeah, I mean, from a maintenance point of view, there's not really a lot that you ever change with a Brother. Sure, over time you're going to get wear in key elements, like over a long extended period of times, you might have to look at ball screw. We've got machines out there that, the machine we're looking at now that you can't see on camera, a company based in Coventry, Automotive Tier 1, he's got a machine that's over 30 years old, still running, still performing, we can still get spare parts for it, and the incidents of breakdown on it are few and far between. So, yeah, you're always going to get wear items. The biggest incident, and everyone goes shock horror when I say this, the biggest incident of what we need to replace on machines is a spindle. And that's not because the spindle breaks, it's because the spindle and the machine is that fast. You've got to make sure that you've got it programmed properly. Because when you start the machine, it's not hanging around. Like most CNCs, respect to 40 taper machines, they're quick. This thing's like lightning. So you've got to make sure you've got your fixture set up correct, your work holding set up correct, your tooling correct before you let the machine go.
Yeah. I mean that when you talk about the spindle technology, I'm guessing it's a smaller cartridge, it's a whole smaller mechanical solution. What's the to get that increase in acceleration and deceleration and the up and the down and the tool change and all the rest of it, the whole configuration is different, isn't it?
It is. I mean,
and is it a different mindset for these
It is.
people looking at having BT40s? Are they looking at it going, that looks a bit... We talk about how it's hard to get people to change.
Yeah.
But do they look at the different configuration and go, oh, that's different?
Oh, they do, absolutely. You get a lot of people look at, that taper's much smaller. Did you know on a 40 taper compared to a BBT30, I've actually got more contact area on a BBT30 than I have on a BT40 with the facing taper. And it kind of all ties in. Yeah, its spindle bearing diameter is smaller. When you look at modern CAD/CAM characteristics or routines, it's now about light and fast is what it's about. More passes, running quickly and running efficiently, and tooling, geometry and technology has changed to accommodate that as well. And it ties into a subject that we'll get onto later, energy efficiency. Well, if we needed power, why don't we all just put 50 taper machines in, because we'll have loads of power then. But the problem is it's going to cost you a fortune from an electricity point of view. So it's about light, it's about fast. But don't get me wrong, it'll competently cut tough, heavy materials. So back
That's
to your
an interesting point. The 40 taper compared to the 30 you're talking about, then you've got more surface contacts between faces.
If you compare a BT40 to a BBT30, actually surface contact, you've got more. Is what you've got on there. You have got a smaller bearing diameter, so you are going to run slightly smaller diameter face mills, but again, you've got to look at the speed the machine is moving at. So the best example that we can give is to get customers, and there's a challenge there for anyone, if they want us to look, there's no cost to it, just challenge us with, here's an ISO program, and just be upfront, we'll run that through, and we'll give you our honest opinion and a fresh air cut from the time that says, look, you've tested the characteristics of the machine. But back to your point, there is a mindset element there. You haven't got huge motors. That said, when I look at there's a 10,000 RPM high torque spindle option that comes with the machine. Again, they're all BBT30. The brother will never make a 40 taper machine. That's 26 kilowatts, 92 Newton meters. That's more powerful than some of my competitors' 40 taper machines. So I've got the dynamics and the agility, and I've got the power, and I've also got the speed in the other elements like the tool change, like the spindle ramp up and ramp down, and I've got the reliability. These things are designed to run.
And so this is all geared around cycle time reduction, cutting out the waste, which is critical. It must be not even when when economies are good, when economies are tight. Regardless, you do not want waste in your machine shop.
I just don't understand the comment. I get a lot of people when I say
I
start
don't need
talking
it that
about
fast.
it doesn't need to be that fast. But the world that we live in, who we're competing against. Surely the objective of any commercial business is per square metre of floor space, I need as much productivity and reliability out of the piece of equipment I'm going to put in that space. So shouldn't I be as frugal as possible in terms of space? Shouldn't I get the maximum output cycle per time, whether I'm making one part or whether I'm making 100,000 parts, the maximum possible output? And as part of that consideration, how much is it costing me to run? Because you tend to find, without naming any names, some of these lower cost 40 taper vertical machines, they've got a lower price tag up front. Not that brothers are particularly expensive. There's a little bit of a premium, but it's not great. But if you look at the cost of ownership, which is something I'm going to be working on, when you look at the cost of the real estate, because that's only getting more expensive, when you look at the inefficiencies of cycle time, like we've talked about, and we look at the energy consumption, that 40 taper vertical will cost you a lot more money over its life, and you'll have a lot more incidents of breakdown than buying the right piece of equipment. But I do understand that, this market has grown up with 40 taper technology. I used to work for Bridgeport. If I go back to the early 2000s, when you were in the game of selling machine tools as well, Paul, I spent years and years selling 40 taper Bridgeports. Successfully on the back of a market that had already opened up, and you've got Cincinnati, and this market understands and knows it's almost a comfort blanket. I've got to buy one of them, and this is a bit different, and we've got to dispel that myth in that we're actually, there's a crossover there. There's 40 taper business out there that the customer should be looking at 30 taper.
One of the areas they might again look at, from a distance and go, well, can I get? We've got some parts on the table here of all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
But this machine looks smaller. So on some of my BT40 machines, I'm putting some seriously heavy parts on there and billets.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I restricted on that with this machine? You've got about a smaller footprint and less mass moving.
Yeah.
But can the table take a decent load?
It's a really good question. So on machine, you can optimize the characteristic of the drives. So for optimum performance, if you look at, say, an S700 machine, I'll get the number wrong off the top of my head. The table will be quoted, it will carry 300, 400 kg, but that's for optimum performance. So we can change the characteristics of the drive on control via parameter. It'll actually take a ton. So I can take a much heavier weight. But again, like I said at the start of it, we've got to look at the application. It's not, you can't just buy a one size fits where you can, but if I do that, I'm going to be slower and more inefficient. And interestingly, on that point, we did some of this work for a customer, a big automotive customer down in Kent, that we've got 2 and 3 pot 5-axis tables on that were over the standard weight, so we had to change the characteristics of the drives. And there was next to no difference in cycle time. There was a marginal amount. So yes, to answer your question, you can carry a heavier weight, but it's all about optimizing based on application.
So you've got choice, really. You've got flexibility there.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. I mean, if you're watching this and you've got any questions for Peter or for Whitehouse Machine Tools, of course you can contact them. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you can all, of course, put a comment or a question in there. So that's cycle time reduction, and a lot of these topics kind of, feed into each other.
Yeah, they do.
Downtime, reductions in downtime. Summarize what that is, and again, the differences between, let's say, a BT40 machine and how you can reduce that downtime with a BT30 or the BBT30 from Brother.
Well, as I've touched on, the build quality of Brother machines is exceptional. So, for those that don't know, it's probably worth touching on at this point. Brother, part of the Japanese corporate based in just outside of Nagoya in Japan, where most of the Japanese builders are based. Best known for printing and sewing machines. Their printing division is the world's printing less, let's put it that way. So there's a big development going into Brother Machine Tool division, and that's why you see so many models and variations that are coming to market. But the build quality of the machines is first class, and the reliability is absolutely excellent. So downtime, the first thing I would point to is reliability of the machine. They're intended for 3-shift running. So, you'll cut a lot of downtime out purely by the reliability and the availability, the original equipment effectiveness, let's say, the availability of the machine. So
that's what I've got here, the OEE, which is a big area in downtime. And we often, and I've done this a lot actually in a lot of programs, looked at the average VMC in a machine shop being machining around about between 30 and 40% of the time. Which actually, if you're watching this, again,
yes,
please feel free to comment. But
really relevant point.
I guess that's quite true and quite common. But here we're saying, okay, well let's improve that. Let's get that up to 70, 80, 90% where that spindle's in cut.
Absolutely. And this is going to touch on another topic with a third-party piece of equipment. And I'm thinking about that customer down in Redditch that I mentioned previously. So there's the S and W series of Brother, a single pallet machine. So we, like other people, sell single pallets. But as you rightly touch on, no matter how quick the machine is, you're then down to the capability of the setup and the changeover and all of those kind of things. So we then look at the R series, which I've got sat behind me here, which is a twin pallet. So when I think of that customer where we've took 71% out of his cycle time, the other big factor with that was he bought a twin pallet. So not only did we take 71% out of his cycle time, we also took his OEE up from 25% on single pallet 40 taper machines.
Is that as low as it was? Was it 25%?
It was awful.
Yeah.
And I think,
did he know that?
Yes, because they put a piece of software in that monitors that. Yeah. So he's got empirical data that says that's what we're achieving. So, and that was just before the brother went in. And by putting the twin pallet, and you could argue if we'd have put a single pallet brother, you could have been in the same scenario. So it's super fast, and I've took loads out of my cycle time, but we're still not very efficient with it. So the decision was to put a twin pallet machine in. So his OEE, and this is the other reason that he's gone from 3 40 taper of vertical single pallet machines to one brother twin. His OEE is 96% last time I walked around there. So the spindle utilisation. And there's another really relevant point there. You've got to automate the right piece of equipment. I see a lot on LinkedIn, and it's great that, we're investing in automation in this market, and it's the way we've got to go. But I do see, having done it for a few years, and you see some of the infancy that are built into some of the big brand machine tool manufacturers that are out there, they're single and 2-shift machines. You do see customers automating machines that maybe they're going to push the capability, the lifespan of that machine by automating them. So it's fine getting that OEE up, which is the point that I'm getting to.
You've got to keep that running, I guess.
You've got to keep it going. Yeah, it's no point. It's like your car, isn't it? Well, I've got an electric one now, but when I had a petrol one or a diesel one, it's no good redlining it everywhere. Or, well, if it's built to redline everywhere, that's fine, but you've got to look after these things. Here we're with a machine that we're telling you, as the distributor of 36 years for Brother Machine Tools in the UK, run it flat out. That's what it's designed to do.
I mean, from our history, and you'll find a lot of these videos on our YouTube channel where we've gone to your customers. They do have, like we see here, 2, 3, 4, maybe 10. I'm sure you can tell me there's companies with more of those machines continually running. So I guess the advancements in the BBT30 technology to bring them into this BT40 market, they've already cracked the sort of reliability element, and they're just now almost drifting into these other regions.
Oh, not at all. We've got lots and lots of examples of reliability and uptime, but Brothers are exceptional in terms of, I never said I never have an issue, but they're exceptional compared to every other machine I look at in the market. And there's a real opportunity there in the subcontract market in particular. I see lots of really nice businesses all investing in the same pieces of equipment from 1 or 2 big corporate manufacturers. And I just don't understand how they think they're going to win business over their competitors. And here we've got something really tangible, really reliable, that's well supported in the UK, mature as a manufacturer, that's broadening their horizons, that can deliver not just little differences, absolutely huge differences. And as I said at the start of this, it's vertical, it's horizontal, it's 5-axis, it's simultaneous, it's automation, it's twin pallets, it's high power. So we've got a diversity of materials. So there's an opportunity, and some, we've got some subcontractors that are on that journey. So we've recently put a machine, a U500 5-axis machine, to a lovely little engineering company over in the east of England. And the machine's in a running, and Dom, the owner there, rings me a couple of days after it's gone in. How haven't you sold more of these, Pete? Well, you tell me what you're achieving, Dom. I've just took my cycle time off my ISO controlled 40 taper machine, built in America, from 20 minutes down to 7. And I haven't even got it running flat out yet.
And what was the part? Can you say, just to give us some sense of reality in how?
Yeah, I believe I never probe too deeply into what customers' parts are and where they go, because I think there's a bit of sensitivity. But they do a lot for medical packaging. They do a lot for the food packaging industry. By where they're based over in the east of England, there's a lot of that market around there. And he was an aluminium user in that instance, and that's something I'm keen to say depart ourselves from. That's not true. Aluminium, every day of the week, no problem, as any machine tool can do, but we'll wipe the floor with anything else on aluminium. These machines are capable of doing this in steel and harder materials, and indeed we've done a couple of projects recently where, I'm thinking of one up in Coventry where my competitor wanted 26 machines to achieve peak volume for the customer. We did it on 14.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah,
that's a steel.
Yeah,
that's a roughing steel application. That's not from a casting or a forging. That's from a roughing steel application. An example of the high torque spindle.
And I guess that's, it's not just less machines, and I'm not going to ask you about the cost of the investment on that as a comparison, but the space saving of something will come into that, will come onto.
Absolutely. I've got, without any names, I talk to a lot of people. I keep my hand very much in what's going on in the market. I've got some customers that we talk to that have got, 20 of this manufacturer's machines, and they're contemplating a new facility. Indeed, this was maybe one of the points with a customer over the east of England. And my overture to him is you don't need a new facility. What you need is a different technology that will reduce footprint, improve reliability, and it'll drastically reduce power. And you don't need a new facility and all of those people that go with it. I think our section of industry, our market, has got to a point where we've got less but more skilled people. It's very difficult to find engineers. So let's make the machines as productive as possible.
The reduction in downtime that we talk about here, we've talked about OEE, automation, clearly quite obvious ones. The service and maintenance I touched on and you spoke about. But they're designed with easier to reach components, making servicing and maintenance simpler as well, which results in lower service costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite important when it comes, I guess, as the mix of a reduction in downtime.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the machines, they're quite pleasing to look at. They look pretty good from the front of. From the back of, they're designed very much for access for maintenance people. You can easily get into the swap management system. You can easily get into the electrical system. You can easily get to not that it uses a great deal of air, but you can easily get into the pneumatic system. Everything's very accessible to get to. I see a lot of corporate businesses, and, some of our competitors' machines are absolutely beautiful looking. They wouldn't look out of place like at home, a small one of them. They look like an iPhone, absolutely beautiful. But when you look at it from a practicality point of view we've got to live with that, and we've got to get covers off it, and we've got to get to things, not so practical. So yeah, they're designed with not just operation and functionality of what it's designed to do. They're designed from a maintenance point of view for ease of access.
Yeah, it's a really
it is.
Important point. And then the IS control as well. I guess again, this helps with reducing downtime. It must do. It's all part of the mix.
So the latest generation, and Dan will talk in a little bit more detail on this later. It's their fourth generation of control. D00 is what it's classified as. It's the unit itself is a 15-inch touchscreen. It's got a 1,000-block look ahead as standard. So any scanning work we want to do, be it 5-axis or 3-axis, it's got the capability as standard, and it's all ISO. So I can take, as we touched on earlier, and that's really our party piece. Just send me an ISO program. And we'll load it in, and we'll just do a direct comparison to what the brother can offer.
What have you got to lose? There is an opportunity. If you've got a BT40 and you've got a program, an ISO program, and you want to test and see what kind of cycle time savings you could make, then there is the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
For yourselves here. Yeah. Peter, we've spoken about reduction in cycle time and reduction in downtime. To me, they cross over, so it's been a good conversation. You've mentioned in amongst that one we're gonna pick out now and go into a bit more detail about, which is power and air savings.
Oh yeah.
Now, for me, this is quite interesting because we talk about power savings a lot, but I don't recall talking about savings on air as well, and how. But actually, that's equally as important, isn't it?
Is one of the most. I think we're probably all aware of this since energy prices went through the roof a few years ago with Trussonomics. Yeah, it's so expensive, and the brother doesn't use a great deal of it, but the bit that it does use is obviously critical, but it's really, really reduced. So there's a lot of mechanical on the machine, so when we look at the way the tool change works on the machine, it's pretty much all mechanical. There's an air blow. We've got to make sure we've got the back end all very clean. The spindle never stops moving in the tool change process, but the whole tool change is mechanical. There is no air that's required.
And that's a bit different to a BT40?
A massive difference. When you look at air consumption, just time of the tool change, time that it takes the spindle to wind down, by the time they're thinking about changing the tool, I've changed it and I'm halfway through the next cycle. So there's a huge saving in terms of air. And also power. When you look at the machine, so the machines use Sanyo Denki drives is what they use. They're the world's fastest reacting servo motors is what they are. And they've got a very special design, IPM, intelligent performance motors. And they essentially harness energy like you would get, I guess, from an F1 car. It will harness and it's beautiful really the way that it works. So the acceleration and deceleration characteristics of the machine means that the motors are creating lots of energy, but then they can harness that energy and redistribute it back into the machine. So I get a lot of literature from Brother, which I've got to say Brother's literature is absolutely superb, and the videos that they do. 80% energy saving, and that would include electricity and air. But what does that actually mean? And I'm going to be doing some of this with the Brother Frankfurt guys. Their European facilities is based in Frankfurt, which we're always happy to take customers over to. But we're going to be doing some work with them Q1 next year, which is really a follow-up to some work we started about a year ago, where we've actually dropped wireless current clamps onto a machine, 40 taper, and we've done the same exercise on a Brother, both 5-axis machines, and so what is it really? What does it look like? Is it 80%? Is it not 80%? Is it more? The reality was running same part on said machines, and I sure I've mentioned details of the other manufacturer, but it's all very well known. With a BT40, very, very well known, really prestigious manufacturer. You'd really like one in your facility. And a Brother 5-axis machine. And we actually achieved almost 90% energy saving, 90. So if you then equate that through, because you need to put it into a pound.
In these pounds and pence.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
80% of what? So the work that we did, if you take an average energy tariff in the UK, I've not got the calcs in front of me, but an average energy tariff per shift per year, the Brother over the other machine doing the same job saved between £5,500 to £6,000 per shift per year. So if we're doing double shift, let's go on the low side of that and say a double shift over a year, I'm going to save £11,000 in electricity. So over 5 years, which generally is how people finance them, I'm going to save £55,000.
And is that considered in your mind? Well, again, a question for people watching. Is it something you consider when you're buying a machine, how much it's going to cost you to run over the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years?
Not really. I don't. Some of the more forward-thinking companies are. We get too carried away with brand in this country. Oh, I've got to have one of these because an F1 team's bought a load of them. But is it the right thing to be buying? Is it the most efficient? Is it the best economy? So we get too carried away with brand, and I think in this, having done it for a few years, people don't look in the main. It's changing holistically at what they're buying. They look at the brand, which I understand. Why wouldn't you? If someone else has had a good experience with a particular manufacturer, well, why wouldn't you put one in? Because it's done a good job for them. But we don't look deep enough. We don't look at the things that we're talking about at cycle time. How much can I get out of that square metre? And what is the footprint? And I'm getting asked more, but it's not frequent. I have to bring the subject up. How much does that cost to run? And I think it's incumbent on us, and it's why I'm doing the exercise with the Brother Europe guys. We need to go to them, and I want to get to a point where I can say, well, that part costs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'll do some work with other partners like Ometa on the coolant front, so we can put coolant costs and maybe OSG and Tungaloy from a tooling point of view, so we can put costs to that. But I'll be able to give you real costs from an electricity, from an air point of view. I want to get to a cost that says, and then we can associate that then to different components. And are you going to find the difference will be dramatic? What we're proposing, we've got some really good competitors out there, but when you look at holistically, they won't touch us because of all of these characteristics that the Brother offers in terms of efficiency, footprints, energy consumption saving. But you've got to quantify that to people. So that's an exercise.
90%, 80-90% seems almost like an outrageous number, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, I agree.
But breaking it down to pounds and pence, £5,000-6,000 per shift, £10,000 if you're two shifting. I guess you'd multiply that by however many machines you'd got as well, wouldn't you? If you had 5, so you could tens of thousands of pounds a year in energy savings.
Yeah, and a lot of the market misses that. And to be honest, until I started, at Whitehouse and got involved with Brother, I've been asked a lot over the years. I've worked, as you know, and probably a lot of the market knows, that most of the big corporates, it's a question you get asked, But it was never really that quantifiable, and there was never any big differences between any of them. And it's only when I started.
I guess it's just a mask from another. Yeah.
There's a bit of smoke and mirrors with it all. I want to take that away, and I want to take it back to the market to go to our competitors. So customers that are looking, going, go on, Whitehouse and Brother can do it in that. What's yours? Let's understand. If we're going to invest and we're going to spend a lot of money, let's understand what we're buying, not just the brand and how nice it looks, and the guy down the road's got 5 of them, so it must be good. Let's have a bit of reality, and then take a decision based on empirical data, that you've got something to work from.
And then, of course, the next area, and we've touched on this a couple of times, Pete, is space saving. Now, it's quite clear to see when we look at the machines. I mean, look at the M200 behind us here.
Yeah.
5-axis mill turn.
Yeah,
in a very, very small footprint. This is a big part of the Brother series.
Oh, it's huge. So, yeah, that is a perfect example. So, M200, what is it? As you touch on, it's a 5-axis simultaneous. So, the 5AX denotes simultaneous mill turn machine. So, I've got 2,000 RPM on the turning spindle. But I think importantly, I've got a working area on that machine of 300 diameter by 300 high. And as I say, it's full mill turn. 16,000 RPM spindle, etc. It's 1.5 meters across the front of the machine, 2 meters deep. It's absolutely minute from a footprint point of view, and that's a common theme throughout the range.
And so we're talking here generally about the comparison between BT40 and BBT30. A machine that would, and you pick on the M200 there, I'm trying to think of my mind, a BT40 machine that would give you as much capability as that in the same
That's a much bigger. You'll be, on average, and it depends machine to machine, and obviously, competitive BT40 machine. When I say competitive, they're different things is what they are. You'll be 25 to 30% bigger on footprint as a rule of thumb.
And so how important is that? You've said already, and I'll reiterate this, is sometimes people say to you, I'm looking at a new factory, I'm looking at, I need a bigger space. But they've got big machines and they've got 6 spindles where they could fit maybe 10 or 12. Is that hard to educate people? And again, people watching this, is that a scenario that they're in at the moment? Not getting enough out of their space? It's
a mindset thing, isn't it? You as engineers, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because, you find a solution to something, and that's the solution, that's the right way to do it. And I guess what I look for, or the sales team and I look for, is open-minded people and engineers that are prepared to look that little bit further. So it is a difficult thing to change, but yeah, I mean, it's really important. In most, I've got a horizontal application at the minute, so Brother make a lovely little horizontal.
I've seen it, it's tiny.
It's absolutely minute. So a swing, a 600 diameter by 580 high. It's a little over 1.25 meters wide and 2 meters deep. So when I compare that against the customer's existing Japanese manufactured horizontal, I could put 3 of my brothers in the footprint of one of his. I will be 30% faster on cycle time. So
you're going to compete on metal removal rates, you're going to compete in all of those areas, and you're going to be smaller.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give respect to the product. And I've always got to preface this, is we need to look at the application, because 40 taper absolutely has an application. I can't do all 40 taper applications on a 30 taper. I'm looking for that crossover element where people, because by, experience and history, that's what we've always bought. We're looking for those applications. There are absolutely 40 taper has a place, a massive place. It is the majority of the market, but it's not all of it.
But how much would you say out of that market of 100%, 100 machines? How many have you got or are you breaking into now, and how many should you? Where do those numbers, is it over 50%? Would you say it's under that? Or?
Yeah, I would say it's under that. I don't know. It's not a number I've ever looked at or tried to work out, but if you think about the applications that you see when you're out and about, it's easily more than 25% of that market, I would suggest, should be looking at a 30 taper machine.
But currently you're not anywhere near that.
No, I mean, typically we've sold to tier 1s and OEMs, which we do a great business with, and we will continue to do so. But when I look at where Brother are going as a manufacturer, it's a very viable alternative to you've got a 40 taper that's too slow. I can handle all these issues. I've now got a product portfolio, which is what I'm trying to make, where I've got one of these type of 40 tapers, a horizontal. Well, I've got that in the 30. I've got a 5-axis simultaneous mill turn. Well, I've got that on the 30. That's a dedicated 5-axis. I've got a vertical. I've got that. A twin pallet, and there are other developments that are coming.
And the
from
one
further.
you've also got is the S1000, is it, or the?
Yeah, so they redesignated that to a W. So yes, it was the S1000.
So you've now got what some might have said before. Well, hang on a minute, my VMC, my BT40's got a meter bed on it.
Yeah.
You've now got that too.
Yeah, I mean, we're sat looking, not that the camera can see, we're sat looking at two of them. There's a third one over here. So they were redesignated as W. So the S stands for single pallet. The W stands for wide, because as far as I'm aware, I'm happy to stand corrected, it's the longest X-axis 30 BBT 30 taper machine you can buy. So it's a meter by 500 by 500. So your typical, like I talked about earlier, Bridgeport, Cincinnati subcontractor. I've got a meter one of them. Well, you can get that on a 30.
And is the footprint of that machine significantly less, in your opinion, than most BT40 machines?
25% smaller. And with that combined with maybe 30% faster, so I've got more output, do you need to move factory? And we've had a few customers that have gone, well, actually, I don't. If I change and put this technology in, I don't need to do that. And there's all the other benefits of power and reliability and those elements that come to it. So, yeah, for sure.
Great. Okay, so the control systems, this is another important part of, and kind of ties into reductions in cycle times, and efficiencies.
Yeah.
But your D00 controls, always advancing.
Yep.
What are some of the aspects of this control system that, in your mind, if you're comparing to what BT40s are doing operationally, where is the added value for that control using the BT30?
So there's been a big emphasis on block look-ahead capability. So Brother have brought to the range simultaneous 5-axis. And now, when I look at those machines, they can gear hive, gear skive rather, gear hob. There's new characteristics that have come there. But the control has got some conversational elements in there, but we've got to remember that with, when you look at conversational controls, and I've spent years doing this with conversational controls. If you can read an engineering drawing and use a computer, you can program our machine. Well, yeah, you can program it really inefficiently because it takes loads of decisions away from you. So you've got to remember the machines are focused at performance. So typically, it's G-code ISO programming. There are some conversational routines that are on there. Majority of our customers are generating programs offline on CAD/CAM systems, and obviously the associated strategies that go with that. But yeah, this is the Brothers' fourth advancement of the D00, or their control system now called D00. And it's some of it's been aesthetics, large screen, it's touch screen. There's some new graphic user interfaces, GUIs, when I look at things like Blum, when I look at things like Renishaw from a probing routine. We've got some really nice graphics now on machine for pre-programmed macro cycles for probing, so that's all in there. And then as I'll go back to the start of that, they've been Brother. I've really touched on performance of the machine, so how I can manipulate the weight characteristics of the table, how I can, with a 1,000 block look ahead, the speed and feed rate that I can run at. I've got accuracy settings in terms of form to fit, so I can open up the geometry on the tool path on control. So if I'm doing roughing passes, I don't need to do sharp corners. I can look at the acceleration, deceleration characteristics, and it's all really user-friendly.
And I guess all of this helps with the topics we've discussed on about reductions and cycle times and downtimes. That's where it all goes.
Oh, it does. I get asked a lot of people, why don't you put... I'll name some names. Why don't you put a Siemens or a Heidenhain control?
Well, it's going to be my question, because people will, BT40 users are going to have those control systems.
Of course they are.
And they're going to have a shop where they've got 4 or 5 of those machines. And we're saying, or you're saying here, BT30 machines, we can take 2 of those out and replace with 1, whatever the number might be. I'm trying to drill into what reasons they would disagree with you and say, right, okay, I'm going to dispute that. And one might be the fact that they'll go, I've got my control system here, which I'm familiar with, and I'm
I
using.
get all of that. And back to your points about control system. I understand commonality of why you'd have that commonality, but again, we're talking about a business that's there to make money, and I understand control interface is important, but surely the broader aspect is the performance of the machine. And back to the control, some fantastic controls there, Heidenhain Siemens, and we sell them on other manufacturers' machines and do a really good job. But this is about a symbiotic circle, if you will, where it all works in harmony of the control drives, of the design of the machine, of the way the control, because it's brother's own control, that's tuned into the capability of that machine. It's not developed for those type of controls. So,
and that gets you to where
I couldn't deliver. Yeah. The fact is, I couldn't deliver the performance by putting those other controls on. So if you want your business to be driven by, well, I've got commonality of control, that's great. And I do understand the argument that, well, I've got a guy that he knows that machine, or girl, that knows that control, but they don't know that control. But the world's changing in that most of it, where programming is now done offline. You know, when you look at, there's fantastic CAD/CAM packages and partners that we've got out there, the capability of the code that they generate and efficiency is absolutely first class. And most of it now has been done offline. So the whole control argument of you don't need to understand G codes, because if you can read an engineering drawing and use a computer, it's just outdated now, because you can program it, but really inefficiently. So, and CAD/CAM technology and strategies and tooling have come on so far that I just think it's a weak argument to say, well,
what's your preference?
It's not the same control. Yeah. Exactly that. The preference is, do you want to keep your guys and girls that are running the machines in their comfort zone with the same control, or are you interested in putting money on your bottom line? And let's face it, the world's not getting any cheaper. Real estate's getting more expensive. Energy's getting more expensive. People are getting more expensive. Surely it's about productivity and the profitability that productivity delivers.
Yes. Very, very good point. Next section we're going to move on to is the developments of the range. Now, we're talking here about comparing BT40 machines to the BT30 and how capable they are.
Yep.
A lot of that comes from the development of course, the product, but also the range within the product. I mean, we've said already about the 5-axis mill turn here behind us. They're quite capable of, well, I guess, as much turning as milling, really, depending on what the application is. Bigger machines, as the one you've mentioned, we got the W, but again, I think you've said there's a revision of that now. So there's a lot of developments within the Brother series that are, I guess, helping you cross into that BT40 zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Brother as a business, we, Whitehouse, are very, very close to Brother European management and Japanese management, and the resources that they are putting into machine tool development is staggering. So when you look at the printing division, it's a fact that the world is printing less and less, and they have a strategic growth plan with their machine tool division, and that's going to come through diversity of machine, so that you've got options for applications is what you've got. So if you go back originally to the origins of Brother, it was an internal development for machining of internal components for printers and sewing machines that's got commercialised. So they were very centred about, these were developed for their own manufacturing, so they wanted them as efficient as possible. It's been commercialised and took to the market, but now they see there's opportunity, a much broader opportunity, but you can't just fulfil that with a single pallet 30 taper machine, because people want horizontal, they want larger tool, change capability, they want 5-axis, be it 4+1 or simultaneous, they want mill turn, they want twin pallet, and these are things that are all in the range. And Brother as a business are shining a light on machine tool development, but not just development of products for applications, which you can see a little bit here on the product portfolio. They're also focusing on Europe. So when we look at machine tool sales and volumes sales in Asia, it's a different mindset in Asia. BBT30 is far more accepted, and the volumes of BBT30 machines, not just Brother, BBT30 manufacturers, as a percentage of the market is much higher. And they look at Europe and go, well, why? No, not just us, but why aren't
And why is that? Just because of a mentality?
mentality?
Yeah.
It's mindset, and it's But if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got, and it's changing that mindset. So Brother are focusing on product portfolio, range, and it's not just styles of machine; it's capability of spindles as well. So we've got high power spindles that are within there, but we tap into that DNA of performance, of speed, of efficiency. And as I said, with European point of view, there's a big focus on how we take that to market. And as we've talked about in development meetings, we've got some 30 type of competitors out there that have got a very, very narrow bandwidth. That's not really our competition. Our competition is re-education of a portion of the market that, for the right reasons, have bought the wrong type of technology. Because of the fear factor of, well, it's just a drill tap centre, isn't it? No, it's not. You need to look a little bit further.
Perhaps the BT40 was the best technology at the time.
Quite possibly,
And
yeah.
maybe that's what they, have gone on to continue to believe, yet there is alternatives.
For BBT30's development acceleration over the last 5 years has been staggering.
So new machines, new models coming through the range. I know you've got your new horizontal, which came out, I think, last year.
That's right.
Is there any more developments on the horizon? I mean, how broad is the range for people watching that don't know how many machines are there in the Brother series?
As you'll see, that they tend to go through the S series single pallet, the R series, which is revolver twin pallet, the M, which is 5-axis mill turn. There's a U series, which is purely a 5-axis machine. It hasn't got the mill turn element in there. We've got the W, which is a wide meter capability single pallet machine that we've got in there, and we've got the horizontal now. So you've got lots of machine tool configurations, and there are developments. What's coming is developments on those platforms, so there's going to be some more scope, and within the option set within the machine. So you're going to see over the next few years, maybe a little sooner than that, there's going to be lots of, we've got a great partner here actually behind us with Tesmaxan and their Cube box system, but there's going to be lots of Brother developments on automation as well, is where it's going to go. There's going to be lots of developments on spindle. Again, it's down to application. We've got to look at application and having the correct option set. The one that I get asked about a lot is tool capacity. And at the moment, the maximum we can get on a Brother is 28. But we have got other solutions to that where I can actually increase that. And with a robot, I can automatically
change tools in there.
And who's to say, maybe in time, that's something that Brother will embrace as they broaden up in that market. But as I say, I'll look at certain...
Would that be the same with the horizontal, that amount of tools?
It's a 30, the horizontal machine is where it is. But yeah, there's going to be development maybe in that area in the future. But as I say, there's a real focus on, well, how do we convert more of that market into what is today the correct technology, away from 40 into 30 taper. And you can only do that by configuration of machine, an option set that the machine comes with.
Automation is going to be our last area of focus here.
Yeah.
You mentioned the solution behind us. I see automation as, it's a twin pallet machine, isn't it? That's automation where you've got multi-function capability.
Yeah.
But how important is it? And when you compare again the BT40 solutions that you see out there to the BT30 Brother series, where are the big savings and the big gains? And how many people are buying BT40 5-axis machines, for example, or automated solutions that should be considering what we talk about? Is that percentage a little higher? We talked about that swing earlier, about 25% that you said on.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I see in that multi-axis machine market that there's a different technology out there that you'll wipe the floor with your competitors, but you need to be open-minded enough to have a look at it. So from a Brother range point of view, we start off from an automation perspective with the R series, and that's probably been our most popular machine. Well, there's no probably, it has been our most popular machine over the last couple of years, because automatically with a twin pallet, I can get the OEE up significantly without a huge investment, without putting a robot on of whatever configuration. Brother then do their own automation system, and there's going to be developments on that front. A little BV7 unit, which we've seen one recently go into JWA tooling JWL Precision, my apologies, up in Leicester.
And there is a video on our YouTube channel.
There is, yes,
that,
and John, Tim, and Pete and the team up there have done a great job of embracing that machine. Really compact footprint. It's on an M series machine, and they're doing single piece flow automation on this lovely little Brother automation. But you know, us as a business, for automation of Brother machines, we work with. We get directed by the customer sometimes in terms of what they want to integrate, but we've done a lot of work with AVP for integration of the Fidio type system. We do a lot of work with Tez Maxan. For people that don't know, Tez Maxan, if you will, are the Whitehouse Machine Tools of Turkey, but they put a massive investment, multi-million euro investment into development of automation systems, which is what we know as the Cube box, which is what we see behind us. So we will integrate that. And just on that note, we're going to be attending Southern this year, next year even, early February, down in Farnborough, where we've got 5-axis Milturn M300. It's actually that cell you can see there with the Cube box automation on. So we've worked.
And that can feed any of the machines that we've talked about in this in this series.
So that's it's set up for a single machine. It's on the M300, which is a 450 diameter, 350 high workpiece. But that could feed a W, it could feed an R. You could actually put two machines. I could have a machine sitting opposite, so it'll feed two machines. So yeah, we've got some options out front. But we, Whitehouse Machine Tools, from an automation point of view, we've got our own automation integration engineer. So we will look at the whole thing holistically. So we've done System 3R, we've done Eroa, we've done Cobot Solutions, we've done Fidio, which is APV essentially, we've done CubeBox, which is FANUC. Automation is not something that's unfamiliar to us, and we're quite happy to take on.
But I'm quite interested to pick up, probably finally, a point that you made earlier about companies automating existing equipment that they've got, but not necessarily giving them what they would hope or could get from automation. So it's not just the robot, it's not just your pallet system here, it's the combination of the two pieces of hardware.
It is, and I get a lot of, well, you know, I don't need to run it flat out because it's automated, so it doesn't matter if it takes 5 minutes longer on a cycle, but that's not the idea of an investment, is it? And you do get a lot of machines, not that many manufacturers would admit to this, that have infancy built into them. And they see it, having worked for quite a few of the big corporates, I know that for a fact, and it's seen as a revenue stream to the business. And Brother don't view spare parts and breakdown as a revenue stream, which you could argue they do themselves down because of the reliability of the machine. But yes, I see a lot of automation, and credit to anyone that's investing in automating their existing equipment, but you then got to look at where the weak points are, and unfortunately there's a lot of machines I see being automated that, whilst yes you can automate them, they're not designed to do that. Again, back to reliability, that Brother machines are designed to run 3 shifts flat out. That's what they're designed to do. So you're going to get maximum productivity. By automating one, you're just doubling down on a machine that will deliver exceptional performance. And I see a lot of other manufacturers, just to touch the point you made earlier, that invest in a particular type of automated 5-axis machine. And I can offer the same solution in a much smaller footprint, more reliable, faster cycle times, and much less energy consumption. And I think what we've got to look at is the value of the parts that we're dealing with. And when you're struggling to be competitive, those big brand names, I can give you the competitive edge that they can't deliver because of all of the things that we've talked about footprint, about efficiency, about speed, and I can automate it as well. And we'll do all of that in-house here at Whitehouse.
So we've been making, during this feature, a lot of comparisons between the BT40 and the BT30 as two machines, one side by side. The BT30 being, as you say, faster, more efficient, space saving and all the rest of it. But then you add automation to that BT30 machine. I guess that compounds the benefit in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, you've got building blocks, haven't you? So if I just look at a single pallet machine, no automation, I can deliver you, let's say on average, 30% cycle time saving, smaller footprint of the energy savings, but then you've got to start compounding it. So if I put a twin pallet on, I'm going to get your OEE up from maybe, I don't know, let's be kind and say, out of a 40 out of a single pallet machine rather, you're going to see maybe 40%. I'm going to get that up into the 90s. But that then, it still needs an amount of manning on that shift. So then when I start to automate, I'm just compounding all the time the savings. You're doubling, you're tripling, you're quadrupling down on the investment that you've made. But it's building blocks, is what it is. And again, I would throttle that all the way back to start off with. Before we get into all of this, I'm going to automate this, that and the other and make this more efficient. Look at how efficient the machining is. That per square metre, what's it actually costing me? How efficient is that? And then build it up from there.
Peter, final message following this. It really is a fascinating topic. I thought I knew a lot about the differences between the BT40 and the BT30 before this, but I know a lot more now. So, having kind of trod this board for a while, I'm sure people watching will have opened their eyes, and I'm sure it will have created hopefully opportunity for you and for them, more importantly.
Yeah.
Just finally summarise, what you want to achieve from this, and really why people watching this should do it, and when they should be going, right, I need to explore this.
Yeah, we don't stack them high and sell loads of them. We sell 35 to 40 machines a year, and we've got some headroom in that. We offer a very good service and application support. So the point that I'm making is that I want people to come with us, please, with their applications issue. I'm doing it at the moment this way. Do you think 30 taper could improve? And can you help me look at the ROI on that? And we're happy to do the pre-sales work to look at a justification. I'm looking for open-minded people, open-minded engineers that are looking for tangible savings that we can support them in the pre-sales activity. So that it's a defined investment. You know what you're going to be able to deliver. And if it's not for you guys, or we can't give you a big enough saving, or it doesn't fit, we'll be the first ones to tell you. But I think it's about triggering people to be open-minded and look outside of the industry norms. Oh, such and such down the road's got a light blue one of that, or a dark blue one of that, or an orange one of that, or a green and black one of them. Well, that's fine. That's what they do. What about what you do? And there's another technology out there that can really make a big difference by comparison. Come and have a look. I think you're doing yourselves a disservice by not looking.
Be interesting how many companies out there have either lost work because they've not been efficient enough, or even lost their business because they've not made the right investment in the right technology to be better and more efficient. Interesting. Just a thought, a passing thought.
Yes.
Peter, thank you very much for your time here today. If you are interested in what Peter's talking about here, of course, this is here at Whitehouse Machine Tools. You can contact them via their website, which is wmtcnc.com. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTD CNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.